This episode is brought to you by Quaker Rage Oatmeal Stout. When you're too nice to show how angry you are, have yourself a Quaker Rage.
All
How's
right,
my
everybody.
skin look? Oh, that's
You
right.
do not
red.
have your Superman curl going there. Lee.
No,
No, you don't.
I don't have my thing going in the front there. I don't have the light on behind me either. It seems to be better. Welcome everybody to episode 63 of Films and Fermentation. Yes, we are Films and Fermentation, a movie and alcohol podcast. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
We're just three friends who like to talk shit about movies while getting shit-faced. Tonight's episode 63, the episode number that is divisible by 3. So we decided to keep going with the threes. That's our theme tonight. Threes, trilogies, movies that have 3, total things. And I just screwed it up. So 3 movies. We're calling this one Three's a Crowd, ... sometimes, for lack of a better episode title. So in this episode, we're taking a look at trilogies. These trilogies either cemented the franchise as legendary or overstayed its welcome. In other words, trilogies that ruined the franchise. Note, we are not discussing franchises that sucked from the beginning, i.e. the Look Who's Talking trilogy or Michael Bay's TNT films, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle films. We're also not including trilogies that went straight to video. So I'm not going to be talking about like Aladdin and then Aladdin Return of Jafar and then, Aladdin, whatever the fuck the third one was. We're not doing that
The
shit.
Thieves, I think it was.
Yeah, so these are only trilogies that started out strong, had theatrical releases, and either lived up to expectations or fizzled out. Don't forget to drop us an email at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com. Give us some movie suggestions, some topics, some drink suggestions, whatever you might like. Or you can do this on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We have all the social medias out there. Go to linktree.com/filmsandfermentation to find all of our social media and podcast links. Gentlemen, what are we drinking this evening? I think we're all doing beer, right?
I am.
I think we're all doing beer tonight.
I am doing my Devil's Backbone pear lager.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm doing a trilogy of beers myself, courtesy of my friend Michael. So I got all my Devil Backbone beers that you gave me, Mike, and I already drank the pear lager with my dinner. I was surprised that I liked this because I don't like pears.
It was
But
peary.
It actually, to me, it had more of like an apple taste to it, which made it a little more, suitable for my pleasures. But it was really good.
Kevin, your 4 are still here.
Oh, cool.
Mike's got a
Thank
whole
you,
pack
Mike.
for you.
I appreciate it.
I am now drinking the Striped Bass Pale Ale. This one is very bitter, because it is an ale, pale ale, so it is a little bit on the hoppier side. And then for dessert,
Is it your first one you don't really care for?
yeah, it's
Devil's
not
Backbone?
it's not bad, but it's not great either.
Okay.
And then for dessert, I have the Tropical Latitude Sour Fruit Ale.
Ooh.
I'll be hitting after I finish the Striped Bass.
So do I.
There you go. Mike and I are doing the beer trilogy this evening. Kev, what you got going on?
I was trying to find anything trilogy related, and I was thinking I would try some of the local breweries like Third State, which is up in Burlington, I want to say,
Okay.
or Three Threes, or even across the river into Triple Bottom. But I couldn't find any of those breweries where I went looking. But I did find from New Belgium, it is a honey orange triple. It's a triple beer.
Triple Bock?
And what's that?
Is it a Triple Bock?
It's a triple bock. It's a Belgian style ale, brewed with wild African honey and fresh ground Seville orange peels. I may have had this before because it looks familiar. 10% alcohol by volume. And after I finished that one off, this is a local beer. This is from Spellbound, which isn't far from where I live now. This is a Belgium triple cherry.
Nice.
Belgium triple cherry, which is 8.5 alcohol, 8.5% by volume.
They both
The
sound
Devil's
really good.
Backbone's not that high.
Yeah, the first 2 that I drank are 4.9 and 5.2 respectively. And then the last one is 5.8. So
Megan gave me a nice little like, ta-da. Yeah. So keep that on
All right.
ice.
So I'm already through my first 2 beers, and we just started talking.
Wow.
They were good. I mean, even though I'm not a big paleo guy, it wasn't bad.
That's good.
It was good enough that I could drink it quickly. The sour fruit ale one's very tasty.
That's good.
Ooh, it's like it's got some sort of like it's like a tart berry flavor. It's very good. All right, Mike. This apparently was a very good year for film history.
This day in film history. Goonies was released on June 7th, 1985. In June 7th, 1984, Ghostbusters, the American supernatural comedy film, directed and produced by Ivan Reitman, starring Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Ernie Hudson, was premiered. June 8, 1984, Gremlins, the American comedy horror film, was released. And this one's for...
How great is it, before you get to the sports one, how great is it to have grown up in the 80s like we did?
My God.
we got to experience all these films as they premiered.
Yes.
I saw all 3 of these films in the movies.
Yes.
And I mean, I was only like 7 years old, but you know, I went and saw all these movies in the theater and loved every one of them. All right.
And every one of them you had a bike involved. You know, E.T. there was a bike involved. Goonies, there were bikes involved. You know, so you could reenact them riding around your neighborhood.
What I remember about these films growing up, you know, especially because I was really young when I saw them, was wanting to do everything that I saw in the movies. Like Goonies, and I wanted to go on a treasure hunt. And then I watched Ghostbusters, and I wanted a proton pack. And
I made my own out of cardboard.
And then I watched Gremlins, and I wanted my own Mogwai because I was pretty sure I could take better care of it than Billy did. Even E.T., I was like, man, I hope I find an alien. I
wanted a red hoodie.
I wanted a bike that flies. It's so awesome that we grew up with these films, man. Such a good year, 84, 85. But yeah, the last one in there you threw in there for me, didn't you?
I threw it in for us Philly fans, especially since the Phillies are now 2 in a row sweeping, guys.
Yeah,
who would have thought all you needed to do was get rid of their manager?
You fire your head coach, and you win 6 in a row with 2 10-0 shutouts in that mix.
Yes.
Do you think they were holding out?
Yeah. I also like this one because they just swept the Pirates too, so that it kind of matches this fact in that sense too.
In June 9th, 1989, the Pirates scored 10 runs in the first, their best inning since 1942. Prompts Pirate broadcaster Jim Rooker to say he would walk from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia if the Pirates lost. Phillies beat them 15-11. Rooker walks at the end of the season.
I watched this game. I remember watching this game. I was I don't remember where. I guess I was probably home, and I remember them. You know, they're down 10-0 at the end of the first, and my dad was like, "Turn it off, man. This is over." And I was like, "Nah, I want to watch it and watch." And then you hear little by little they were coming back. Next thing they win the game. And I remember the guy. I didn't remember his name, but I remember the guy saying, "I'll walk home if they lose this game." And then they did a commercial. There was some company, I don't remember what the commercial was for, but some company sponsored him at the end of the season to do the walk. And so they had like a film crew follow him as he walked from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they like documented the whole journey. It was pretty cool.
Well, he should have known better. It was the Pirates.
Yeah, but I mean, well, in 1989, the Pirates weren't that bad. I mean, that's when they had Barry Bonds, Bobby Bonilla, like they were a really good team at the time.
Yeah.
That was back when Barry Bonds looked like Wesley Snipes in Major League and not like Wesley Snipes in Blade.
Willie Mays Hayes.
Before his head grew
You
3
run
times.
like Mays, but you hit like shit.
Before Barry Bonds' head grew 3 times that day. All right. Fun drink fact for this evening, Michael.
Oh, my fun drink fact is how to read a beer label.
Left to right.
Well, it's a specific.
That's it's in Arabic. If it's in Arabic, then it's from right to left.
But it's still from top
But
to
you
bottom.
wouldn't be having an Arabic beer anyway.
It's still from top to bottom, though.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Mike.
Hops bitterness is measured with International Bitter Units, or IBUs. These units express parts per million of isohumulone, a compound from hops that causes bitterness in beer. Hop oils that are heated to more than 185 degrees Fahrenheit while submerged in wort, the sweet liquor that becomes beer after fermentation, contributes to perceived bitterness. Note that a light dry beer with 50 IBUs is going to taste a lot more bitter than a heavy sweet beer with the same number.
I'm looking at the label on my beer now, and there are no IBUs on my.
Yeah, I haven't found an IBU yet.
What I do see is for the tropical latitude, 5.8% alcohol by volume.
Yep.
Or no, is that 5.0? That's 5.0. The 0 looks like an 8 because there's a little dot in the center of it.
Wait, is that metric or imperial?
That is, I don't give a fuck. 5.0 alcohol by volume, 12 fluid ounces, light pink in color. I like that it gives you a color description on the side of the beer. It is an ale with natural flavors and vegetable juice for color.
Ooh.
It's my vegetables for today. Considering I had chicken nuggets and fries for dinner, this is my healthy choice.
I like a beer that tells you what temperature should you serve this at. Best served between 50 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit.
That seems a little high.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does.
I like mine served at 32 degrees.
Yeah.
So I'm about to try the tropical latitude myself.
I really like the tropical latitude one. It's got a sort of almost like a hard cider taste to it.
Yeah, it has that little sour to it.
Yeah, but not overly sour.
No, but it's pretty good.
I have a beer I'm looking forward to, but I don't know if I want to keep it as a surprise or whether I want to tell you guys the name of it now. I can't foresee myself or us doing a show where I could, mention this as a surprise. So I'll just tell you right now, it's called Bearded with Sprinkles.
Is it an ice cream flavored beer?
It is pineapple vanilla, but I'm not quite sure whether it's a milkshake or whether it's like just a hazy IPA or what.
So does it have the bearded lady on it with the sprinkles all over or something?
It's just a picture of a beard, and the guy's got sprinkles in his beard. Oh, sorry, Adrian.
Oh,
Adrian, our perfect show is now ruined.
Adrian just tuned out. We just lost a listener.
We'll get my wife back. Don't worry.
So I got some notes from the last show. Mike pointed it out to me this weekend that Monday was D-Day, and probably should have mentioned it since it was the Memorial Day episode. And we did talk about all that stuff, and we didn't thank the servicemen and women in that episode. Probably should have did that too. So thank you to everybody out there who has served in the military for your service to the country. And I have two movies that I missed on that list that I thought probably should have been included. One was The King's Speech. Won Oscar for Best Picture, Best Actor, Colin Firth. It's about King George VI and his speech that he gave to the nation on the dawn of World War II. Good movie. I don't know if it should have won the Oscar that year, but it was a good movie.
I enjoyed that movie.
Yeah,
it was very good.
And one that I was really mad at myself for forgetting because it's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
Biloxi Blues with Matthew Broderick and Christopher Walken. And it's not necessarily a movie about World War II because they don't ever actually end up going to war, but it's a comedy based on life at a boot camp in Biloxi, Mississippi. And it's one of my favorite movies. I'm mad at myself for forgetting that. Kev, I wanted to mention this to you because I just saw a teaser trailer for it the other day. A new Netflix series produced by Tim Burton. It's called Wednesday.
Oh,
It's called Wednesday.
is it about Wednesday Addams?
It is about Wednesday Addams.
Nice. Is it starring Christina Ricci?
So the girl playing Wednesday, her name is I think it's Lucy Ortega, I want to say. She's a young actress. It's kind of like Wednesday, like she's like young adult, almost like 18, 19, something like that.
Okay.
And kind of follows like her later life adventures.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine Zeta-Jones plays Morticia in the series, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, I can see that though. I can see that role fitting pretty well.
Yeah, Gomez Addams is Luis Guzman. You might not recognize his name, but you would recognize his face because he's a very, diverse character actor.
Mm-hmm.
And Christina Ricci is listed.
She is in it, yeah.
She's listed on IMDb as being a part of it, but that doesn't say what role she will be playing.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me wonder if it'll be her playing like adult Wednesday Addams, like sort of narrating, her early days or something like that.
Right.
That's what I'm kind of thinking of.
Interesting. I will look for this. This looks like I could enjoy it. I also saw some stills. I don't think a trailer dropped, but some stills for the Munsters, whose version, Rob Zombie's version of the Munsters.
They
looks pretty good.
They just released a teaser trailer for it today. It's a 1-minute teaser, and you see Herman, Lily, and Grandpa Munster walk out of the house in black and white, like they did in the original series, like opening theme.
Yeah.
And then they cut to them sitting on the couch in full color. And they're just sitting there like staring at the camera, and Grandpa goes, "Okay, what do we do now?" Because it's going to be in full color, the film. I know that I don't know too many of the actors in it. I do know that Lily Munster is Rob Zombie's wife.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, who's been in a lot of his films. So yeah, I saw that one today, and the Tim Burton Wednesday one I want to definitely tell you about, because I thought you might be interested.
No, I appreciate that. I will check that out.
Both because it's Christina Ricci and it's Tim Burton. And then I've been binging recently a show on Netflix. It's actually been on Netflix for a while now, and it's been on my list. And I just finally got around to watching it. It's called Mindhunter. It's a really interesting show. It's about the FBI in the late 70s when they started to develop the behavioral sciences unit that studied serial killers. And so it's it's based on a true story, but the characters in it are fictionalized. That it follows these two FBI agents who go around the country and interview all of these incarcerated serial killers. So the serial killers they're interviewing are real people played by actors. But the FBI agents are fictionalized characters. But it's a really interesting show. Disturbing. It's not something I would, watch with the family.
Everybody gather around. Kids, bring your blankets.
Children. Tonight's episode is about Son of Sam. Let's gather around.
Bring your blankie.
I'm having some technical difficulties.
Yeah. It's like you're like scrambling around over there. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So let's get to our main segment this evening then.
My mic and headset keeps cutting out.
Oh no. No, we'll just have to do the show without you, Mike.
Learn sign language, Michael.
Hold on, I'll bring up the chat. We can just use the chat.
Nice elbow, dude.
This is really compelling for the people watching on YouTube. If we need to, Mike, just sign out and sign back in again.
Or unplug your headset.
You're talking, your mouth's moving, but we're not hearing anything.
Maybe we should do like Mystery Science Theater and just.
We are back after some technical difficulties.
Did you say difficulties?
Difficulties, because
difficulties.
Mike was reluctant to lick the tip to get it to spark a little bit there. Mike, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Right. I can hear you.
We can hear you.
All right.
So tonight's main segment. Thanks again to Mike's wife, Adrienne. She came up with this idea. The Jurassic World trilogy is coming to a close soon with the release of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. So in honor of that release, which will be the third film in a franchise, we are talking about classic and not so classic movie trilogies. So we're going to look at some good movie trilogies, some trilogies that possibly killed the franchises, some trilogies that redeemed themselves, and a couple underrated trilogies as well. So on Twitter this week, I posted a survey question for our Twitter followers. And the question was, which is the more superior franchise? Was it Star Wars Episode 4, 5, and 6? That would be New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Or Lord of the Rings? Which is the better trilogy? So before I read the Twitter poll results, what do you gentlemen have to say?
That's a tough one.
It's a tough one, but I lean more towards Star Wars, and it's going to sound really bad, but I think it's because the amount of time of the movies, you watch all three of the Star Wars movies back to back, and you're maybe devoting 7.5 hours. If you're watching all three of the Lord of the Ring movies back to back, you're devoting a week to, depending on the director's cut, the extended version,
I could bang it out in 19 hours.
Yeah, no kidding.
I have a hot take here. As much as I love Star Wars, and I do love Star Wars, and you guys know that, I've been praising Obi-Wan this week. I actually think Lord of the Rings is the more superior trilogy. And simply because I think it's the more complete trilogy. It's the more coherent trilogy. And all three movies have their merits, whereas I think Return of the Jedi, even though I love it, was sort of a weak return to the Star Wars franchise. I thought it could have been better.
Okay.
But I feel like with Lord of the Rings, like you have three solid, complete movies that all kind of stand alone on their own in some way.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's a hot take for me though, because I'm a Star Wars guy. So, Mike, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but I'm having something weird going on here.
I have a strange feeling.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out why one of my speakers are coming.
It gets all tingly when I move it like this.
Well, it's using my computer speakers.
This is compelling for all of our
This is
listeners.
riveting.
I know.
For all our listeners out there, I spend most of my day helping old people try to figure out where the power button is on their computers. And now Mike, the oldest of the three of us.
I know where it's just if I turn it's like it's using both my mic and my speakers on my phone and my headphones. I'm getting like triple sound.
I hear you fine on my end, so.
Yeah, you sound fine over here.
How's it sound now?
Still sounds fine.
Sounds exactly the same. So.
Yeah, you guys sound weird to me.
That's because
we always sound weird to you.
That's because you're from North Carolina.
How many beers are you in now?
No, because you're actually coming through my computer speakers, not through my headphones.
Your headphones plugged into the right hole?
Well,
Got to make sure you get in the right hole there, Mike.
Yeah. Told you, lick the tip.
Lick it. Lick it, then stick it.
Just spit on it a little bit and slide it in.
Just wiggle it around, jiggle it,
Wiggle
flick it a little.
Just
a little bit.
No more than twice though, because after that you're playing with it.
That's true.
So while Mike tries to figure out his technical difficulties, let me get to the question on Twitter this week. What is the better of the two episodes? Two trilogies, rather. Star Wars Episode 4, 5, and 6, or Lord of the Rings? Final results: 53% of the people who voted took Star Wars Episode 4, 5, and 6,
Okay.
while 47% chose Lord of the Rings. That is a very, very close count to me. I think 53 to 47.
Do you have the numbers as to like how many people contributed to this poll?
17.
Okay.
Yes,
All
I mean it wasn't like a
Good.
big thing. It was my first time trying this too, so hopefully next time we get a few more people. But
Absolutely.
but if you include us now, that's 20 people.
Mhm.
So it doesn't really.
I don't
change.
have a Twitter account.
Yeah, well, it doesn't change too much because my vote for Lord of the Rings wouldn't really up it too much there. So, but yeah, 53 to 47, pretty close. And I can't say that the 53% who voted for Star Wars is wrong. I'm a Star Wars fan. Even though I thought Lord of the Rings trilogy is probably a little bit of a better trilogy, I still will not, say no to the Star Wars marathon on TNT or whatever channel it is. It comes on like every couple weekends.
I was watching it today.
Mhm.
Not the original, the sequels.
7, 8, 9.
Ugh. Yeah.
I don't mind Last Jedi.
Really? Because that
Yeah.
one bugs me like you wouldn't believe.
I don't mind Last Jedi. I have more of a problem with Rise of Skywalker.
That one didn't do me any. That wasn't that great with me either. But just The Last Jedi was such a curveball. Just went in a whole different direction.
It's kind of what everybody says who has like who had like an issue with it. But I kind of like the fact that they did try to go in a different direction.
I would have liked that, but honestly, I would have liked if they went in a different direction from the get-go. I also got my issues with The Force Awakens.
I said that a couple shows ago that like a lot of people complained that The Force Awakens was too much like A New Hope.
Yeah.
But then the same people who complained it was too much like A New Hope said that Last Jedi wasn't enough like Empire. So, and they got Rise of Skywalker, which was fucking its own thing completely. I don't even know how to describe that.
It was trying to fix the fuck ups from the second movie.
that was like the dictionary definition of retcon, that third film.
Yeah.
So our best movie trilogy list, the first two I got there, of course, are Lord of the Rings and Star Wars Episodes 4, 5, and 6. And I don't think we have to get into those too much, because as I said, I think they're both superior trilogies. Even though I feel like Lord of the Rings has a more complete arc to it.
Exactly.
Star Wars still has a special place in my heart, and I'm looking at Star Wars 4, 5, and 6 as a trilogy separate from 1, 2, and 3, and 7, 8, 9. I'm not looking at it as a nonology, which would be all 9 films. I'm looking at it as a trilogy in and of itself.
I mean, at the most, I would put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and put 7, 8, 9 as their own thing.
Yeah, same thing with 1, 2, and 3. I would kind of put them as my own thing, I think, even though they're the backstory portion of it. If you're looking at it in terms of just trilogies,
yeah,
then you got to look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all separate from each other.
Right.
How about Indiana Jones? What were you going to say there, Kev?
Nothing. I wanted to present something that I found online recently, and I'm not sure if you guys can see that or if
the
it's
trilogy
backwards.
meter. Yeah, I've seen this before.
The trilogy meter. I'm just talking about it, I'm looking at them like, oh, okay. So.
I don't agree with everything on the trilogy meter, but
no. Okay.
Because I have a question about what I put third on the list, which is Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones.
Prior to the release of 4 and eventually 5. Can we still call it a trilogy? Now that there's a 4th one that's a kind of maligned 4th film? Or do we just like ignore Crystal Skull and look at the original 3 for what they are?
Let's just ignore Crystal Skull.
Depends upon what they do with the 5th one.
Yeah, I mean, also you got to say like the Crystal Skull came out 20 years after Last Crusade. At that point, it's a generational divide there. Like I can just say that the original trilogy just stands on its own that way. I mean, because you got to think like, I just made Adrian tune out again. After I just told Adrian that I don't burp on the show, I'm like,
Yeah, you told her.
3 beers in, it's hard.
I tell you.
I'm almost done the third one. I have to go get something else soon. The original film is, of course, a classic. Not many people. There are some people who are like detractors when it comes to Temple of Doom, but I'm not one of them. I like Temple of Doom.
That's because most people don't understand the Indian.
Yeah,
religion.
we talked about this before. It's because the other two films are more World War II
Christian-based.
Germany, Nazis, and stuff like that. Because
And
then
Christian based.
and Christian based, yeah. So the Last Crusade kind of brings it back. I recently rewatched the scene in Last Crusade where the Nazi guy picks the wrong grail and drinks
He
from
has
it,
chosen poorly.
and his face like
Melt.
he well the
He
guy
ages. No, he
like,
ages.
yeah, he ages like real quick.
Yeah.
And I learned on a show I was listening to recently that was all practical effects. There was no CGI involved in that.
Oh no,
Wow.
that was all. Yeah, that was all stop motion. I want to
It
say
was stop motion where they started with
Whoa, Kev. Whoa.
whew, you're too red for that lighting.
Wow.
They like started with the final like skull and worked their way back to his face.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then played it in reverse on screen. So that
Right.
it looked like he aged. It was really, really cool to see. It was a cool like behind the scenes thing. Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Does this belong on the best trilogy list?
Well, consider I've only seen the first two and haven't seen the third one yet.
Yeah. Kevin
Seriously?
and I, yeah.
Seriously.
You've not seen Dark Knight
Michael.
Rises. Yeah. Kevin and I saw Dark Knight Rises in the theater in Maryland. We were on vacation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Look, I still thought
think-
it was a good movie. It just, wasn't as good as the other two were.
Yeah, they shot their load with the second one.
Well,
Get better.
one of the problems was that Dark Knight Rises was supposed to continue the story of the Joker. Heath Ledger unfortunately passed away before filming, so they had to kind of revamp the script a little bit. So they decided to go with the Bane storyline, which I really like Tom Hardy as Bane. I liked his take on the character. A lot of people make fun of the voice, but I kind of like enjoyed the way he enunciated the words and everything. I liked Anne Hathaway as Catwoman. I thought she was really good. I didn't like the stuff with Marion Cotillard, even though I love Marion Cotillard.
It's got to hurt you to say that.
Yeah, I didn't like.
It's really got to hurt you to say that.
I kind of didn't like that storyline. I thought it was kind of convoluted. Really cool visual when they blow up the stadium.
Yeah,
that's a really cool visual. So I mean, it has its merits.
I mean, look, if you're going to start off with Raj Al Ghul, it kind of fits with her character coming in. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet.
Michael.
I'll get to it eventually. It's not a Marvel movie, so I'm not worried about it. Come on. DC only has Batman, so come on.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a second. Black Adam just dropped a trailer this week, so
Jesus Christ. The Rock is like oversaturated at this point, I think. Yeah, we should have put the Fast. Well, no, there's 10 films in that. It's not a trilogy.
Yeah.
The next one's
called a franchise now.
Is that a decology?
Yeah, it's a decology. I think it'll be
decology.
Yeah, I think it's a decology.
I remember when Aliens came out, they had to go from being an Aliens trilogy to the Aliens quadrology.
Quadrology.
Like, ooh, yeah.
And then if you throw Prometheus in there and what's the other one that just came out? The
Covenant.
Covenant. Now it's a sextology.
Talk about dicks and sex. What the hell?
Licking tips and. So the next one on the list I put on there for myself because it's one of my favorites. I don't know if you guys are into this or not. It's the Evil Dead trilogy. Evil Dead.
Evil Dead. Was it Evil Dead?
2,
Evil Dead 2, and then
Army of Darkness.
Yes.
So I love
Give
Bruce
me a little
Campbell.
sugar, baby.
Yeah, I love Bruce Campbell. It's also Sam Raimi's debut as a director. Was the original Evil Dead. and he did all 3 films, so it was nice that he's involved in all that. But yeah, the Evil Dead films are fun. They're like one of the first films that that blended horror and comedy together really well. Yeah, and they're very quick watches too. The first Evil Dead's only 80 minutes.
Is it really?
Yeah. Next one on there is the Man with No Name trilogy with Clint Eastwood. That would be The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, A Fistful of Dollars, and A Few Dollars More. And these would be the movies that made the spaghetti western a thing in America. The Sergio Leone westerns that were all filmed in Italy because the budget was cheaper, and made Clint Eastwood a household name. Even before the Dirty Harry stuff that he did in the 70s.
So I don't know. He was on Rawhide.
Yeah. Rawhide really what made him, like, I mean, you know, he might have been popular from it, but I think it's the playing the man with no name, because then he did a few more westerns after that, because he did like The Outlaw Josie Wales and a few things.
He did Unforgiven.
Did Unforgiven, which is Unforgiven's a masterpiece. I love that movie.
Yeah.
And then in the 70s he did the Dirty Harry film. So it was kind of like the westerns are what made him, and the Dirty Harry is what shot him to like megastardom.
Then he went to comedies.
And then he did the one with the gorilla. The hell was that called?
He was way but loose.
Yeah. Toy Story. Now this is another one I struggled with because there's a 4th one now. I have Toy Story 1 to 3. Like, does adding the 4th film destroy what was already a really good trilogy?
It turns it into a quadrilogy.
Yeah. And I
think it makes it a quadrilogy, but I also think that they just gave in to the pressure of having another one, you know, because 3 wraps things up. Yeah, exactly. They sold out. 3 wraps things up beautifully with the passing of the toys, you know, from Andy's toys to becoming the little girl's toys.
Who
you
loses
know?
them?
Yeah. In the fourth movie, yeah, she loses them.
Well, she's a little careless and she plays with trash. You know, I am trash.
Sporky.
He lost Woody.
Sporky, whatever his name is.
Sporky, yeah. I am trash.
Yeah, but I struggled with putting it on there. Like, I really wanted to put it on there because I feel like the first 3 movies are such great arcs. You know, like I don't know. I mean, I don't think the 4th movie wasn't bad, but I don't know if it was necessary. The John Wick films. John Wick, if you haven't seen all 3 of them, you really need to see them, man. They are so fucking entertaining.
I haven't even seen the first one.
Oh, dude, it's so entertaining.
I know.
Kevin, don't worry, neither have I.
They're part of the Keanu Sans. Bringing Keanu Reeves back to like form here, man. Like, it's.
Were you the one that sent me the meme that about John Wick being the alternate universe for Bill and Ted?
Yeah,
if you went to military
Bill
school,
got sent to military school, he turned into John Wick. So the first John Wick film is really fun. It's a lot of action. It's an interesting like setup for why he's the way he is.
They killed his dog.
Well, it's more than that. Like, he was married to a woman that got him out of the assassin business. Like, he gave it up and went straight for a while. She dies of cancer, and she gives him a dog to like remember her by or something like that. Like, the dog's supposed to be for like memory of her. And then these guys rob his house and they kill the dog. And so he goes on a kill crazy rampage where every single person he kills in the film, he shoots in the head. There are more headshots per capita in that film than any time Kevin's gone to the shooting range.
Wow. That's a lot.
And then the second,
I do like a good headshot.
Yeah, the second movie ramps it up by adding some like mythology and like lure to the story. Like, his world is this world where all these assassins exist, and there's like this network behind it all, and it's a really cool like world building film. And then the third film is just fucking fun. It's so fucking fun. He kills a man with a horse. It's awesome. He's fighting these guys, and there's like they like end up in this barn somehow, and the guy's running at him, so he smacks the horse in the ass, and the horse kicks the guy in the face and kills him. It's fucking awesome. Remember how hard we laughed at the Expendable films?
Yes.
That's how hard I laughed watching John Wick 3. If you haven't seen them, they're a lot of fun. The Back to the Future trilogy. Does this belong on a good trilogy list or a?
Yeah.
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 I think
Absolutely.
so. Even though the second film and third film are not as classic as the original one,
But they're good enough.
they're entertaining. I actually like the third one. Between the second and third, I like the third one the best.
Neither one of them ruined the franchise.
Oh no, not at all.
No, not at all.
I thought the third one actually had some good closure at the end.
I would like to know, and this is a little off the rails, but just talking about all these trilogies, I want to know, most times somebody makes a sequel or multiple sequels after the success of one, right? And the one is right. And it's the initial movie that has the story, and the sequels are just kind of like, fodder, cash, who developed the first series, trilogy, if you will, that had broken it up into three on purpose. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm telling a story, it's got to be broken up into three. And what was the first recorded film that did that?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I know it's a little off the
No,
rails.
it's a cool question because
I
don't even know like when sequels became a thing.
Because a lot of people didn't. They always made the first one with some kind of ending in case it didn't get the money
to wrap it up. Right. Exactly.
Wrap it up a little bit.
But it would be interesting to see who laid the work. Right. Who laid the work down in that first movie to have it come back to a second or a third? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
It's kind of like finding the Easter eggs that tie something together, knowing that it's going to come back and work out in a different way.
Yeah, it's I don't. Yeah.
I mean, it's something for another time. It's just we're talking about trilogies and how they.
It's a good question. It's like I really don't know. It'd be cool to find out. So I'm doing a Google search now, and there's not a lot coming up because they say that it's not something that's really well documented. It's hard to kind of like find out. It says like the earliest one that most people consider to be like one of the first trilogies is the Man with No Name trilogy that we just mentioned with Eastwood.
Right.
That's one of like the earliest trilogies because that was in the 60s.
Yeah, but each one of those could be a standalone movie too.
And you could say the same thing with like James Bond because that was like the first,
right.
They were all standalones too. But that's a cool question. I'll have to like.
It would have to be. I would think it'd be something more nowadays.
I would think honestly. I think probably the Godfather trilogy. But then again, like that one was, the third one was a lot further along than the first two. Like Godfather 1 came out in 72, Godfather 2 came out in 74.
And most of the ones
Godfather 3 wasn't until like the late 80s.
And most of the ones like you're talking about have come from books.
Yeah.
Right.
Have the books.
Right.
Like
and that's kind of like you bring up the Godfather Part 3. Was that mentioned in the Godfather book that just wasn't included? Like 1 and 2 were they were both in the same book.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't like Mario Puzo wrote a second Godfather book. It was all that was taken into one, pulled apart, and put into two different movies.
Yeah.
Godfather
3 was an original screenplay.
Right.
Yeah. It was written by Puzo and Coppola, but it wasn't based on prior material like Godfather 1 and 2 were both the Godfather novel that Mario Puzo published prior. Yeah. So yeah, it's a really cool question. I'll have to like research that because that's gonna bug me. But that's a cool. That's a cool question.
Something like Lord of the Rings, because they made all 3 movies at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you think back to like early films, like 30s, 40s, 50s, there aren't sequels. Like that's not really a thing. In fact, the first sequel to Wizard of Oz didn't come out to 1984.
And it shouldn't have.
And it shouldn't have because
Adrian's gonna kill me now.
She likes Return to Oz.
She loves Return to Oz.
Kevin likes it because Fairuza Balk's in it.
Fairuza Balk's in it.
So I struggled with whether or not the Godfather trilogy then should have been on this list or the list of trilogies that killed the franchise?
The thing is, I don't think 3 was bad enough to actually kill the franchise.
Mm-hmm. It just wasn't nowhere. It was nowhere near as good as the first two.
No, it was nowhere near.
I mean, the third one is, if you've never seen it before, if you watch it once, it's kind of like enough. I've watched it a couple times just to kind of like give it a chance, and it's not a bad film. It just has a lot of flaws.
Yeah.
For one, Robert Duvall didn't want to come back, and George Hamilton is not a replacement for Robert Duvall.
Not at all.
Sophia Coppola is not a good actress. And it was supposed to go to Winona Ryder, that role, but I think she got sick or something and had to drop out. But it might have been a better film if we had better people in the other roles, you know. And you're also talking about Al Pacino as he started to make his veer into caricature Al Pacino, and not Michael Corleone Al Pacino. But like you said, Mike, I kind of agreed. Like, it wasn't bad enough to kill the trilogy.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can actually watch the other two without watching the third one.
Yeah. The Hannibal Lecter trilogy, that would be Silence of the Lambs,
Red Dragon,
Hannibal, and Red Dragon.
Yep.
right?
I look at this one as like a trilogy that kind of saved itself, because Silence of the Lambs is undoubtedly a masterpiece. I think that's one of the greatest movies ever made.
Yeah.
Hannibal is not a great film. It does have some entertaining moments. Watching Ray Liotta eat his own brains is a really an entertaining scene. All I remember from that scene is you see Hannibal Lecter cooking the brains in the pan, and then he walks over to Ray Liotta, whose brain is exposed.
Skull cap, yeah.
And he hands him the plate, and he starts eating it, and he goes, that's good. I love Julianne Moore as an actress, but I didn't think she was a good replacement for Jodie Foster in that film.
No.
But then Red Dragon, I feel kind of redeemed it, because it's a really good movie.
It is. Yeah, it's Ralph Fiennes.
Ralph Fiennes plays a fucking creepy character in that film.
Edward Norton.
And it's a prequel in a way, because it's when Hannibal was first captured, and Ed Norton plays the FBI agent who captured him, and is again like interviewing him to help him catch this other killer that's known as the Red Dragon. So yeah, it's a good movie. And then I thought like there's definitely some superhero trilogies out there that belong on this list. So I went with the MCU Spider-Man trilogy. That would be Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home.
Yep.
I think all three.
So far, it's a trilogy. There's going to be more.
It's probably going to be more, but right for the purposes of this episode, at this particular time in 2022, No Way Home is the end of the trilogy.
How would you rank them?
Between this and the other two actors, or the three films?
No. In the three films, I think.
Wow.
I would have to go third, first, second.
I think I agree with you.
1, 3, 2. I like 1, 3, 2.
You like 1, 3, 2? I really liked No Way Home. I thought that was a lot of fun. Of course, there's a lot of like kind of like a nostalgia thing in there too that kind of might cloud it a little bit, but I enjoyed it a lot, and I really liked the first one. And a lot of what I liked about the first one was, I mean, Tom Holland's great as Spider-Man, but I really liked Michael Keaton as the Vulture. I thought he lent a little bit of gravitas to it.
I also like it wasn't an origin story.
Yeah, it wasn't an origin story. You kind of didn't need an origin story at that point, you know. And I liked the second one, and I thought Jake Gyllenhaal was pretty good in it as Mysterio, but I thought that the ending got a little too like ahead of itself. You know, got a little confusing at the end there.
Yeah, I agree.
But overall,
I think one of the things that impresses me with No Way Home is how they broke the multiple villain, kill shot, if you will.
The stigma.
Yeah, stigma that comes along with having too many villains in it.
Part of it is that all of those villains had already been established.
Right.
Like, you didn't need to do backstories on them. Everybody knew who they were. Even if you're only vaguely familiar with the other films, you kind of know who they are. So you didn't have to do any of that stuff.
Yeah, none of them were new. None of them.
No. So you didn't have to do any of that with them. And that I think that helped it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm curious. I still haven't seen Multiverse of Madness, and I hear that it's kind of like Sam Raimi directed it, and it's kind of like his resurrection after the mess that was Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
You know, back in the superhero realm. And as far as superhero film trilogies go, I also have Captain America on there for the first Avenger, Winter Soldier, and Civil War.
About Iron Man?
Iron Man.
No.
I have Iron Man down here, just not on this list. I have Iron Man on my list of trilogies that kind of killed the franchise. I mean, I can't even say killed the franchise because it's fucking MCU.
Yeah.
It's hard to like categorize that anyway.
But Iron Man 2 really sunk the ship. You know. Back to Captain America. I like how in each movie, his belief in the American system and the government gets less and less and less and less and less, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He is A1 Boy Scout and the first Avenger. By the time the second one comes out, where you find, wait, Mike, you've seen Winter Soldier, right? I don't want to spoil it for you. Okay, so
if there's any movies on this list that Mike has seen every film, it's the MCU films.
At least twice.
At least twice. Mike owns all the films on DVD, I think.
No, I started that, then I got Disney Plus, so I didn't have to do that.
Yeah. I like the first Avenger as far as like an origin story goes. I thought it was pretty well done. I like how the Winter Soldier kind of like spun it around, and instead of feeling like a total superhero film, had a lot of like that sort of spy craft to it, like a Bond film almost.
Right.
It was a spy thriller.
Yeah.
I liked how it added characters, but you really didn't need their backstories yet, because they came up with their backstory later.
Yeah.
What gets me about the Civil War, which I liked a lot, but I had to talk to an older generation or even other people, how they didn't want to see heroes fighting against each other. It's like, no, that makes it that much better.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of it is they're
have they not read the comic books? It is so much more than just
like if you
little bit. It's like the whole freaking universe of superheroes fighting.
Yeah, I mean, like we unfortunately didn't have the mutants or like the other characters from Marvel involved in this, that it could have been the Civil War that it was in the comics. There's even a second one, right, Mike? There's a second Civil War.
There's a second one.
Yeah,
you can't do it because Tony's dead now. So.
Yeah.
That was Tony versus Captain Marvel.
And then the next couple of things were just like things that popped into my head here. Trilogies that redeem themselves. I have the Ocean's trilogy. I really like Ocean's 11 with George Clooney and Brad Pitt. I think it's a really fun movie. The second movie is kind of a drag. Ocean's 12.
They moved that one to Europe, right?
Yeah, and they kind of like got a little too cheeky with it, like trying to make it like this real slick sort of like, you know, heist film. And then the third one, Ocean's 13, they go back to Vegas, back to the formula from the first film. Introduce a few new characters, a lot of the same fun skits from before, kind of like how Force Awakens is a lot like New Hope. They went back to what worked best, and it became a better film. And then I have Star Wars 1, 2, and 3 down there because as big a mess as 1 and 2 are, and even though 3 is not a perfect film, I really like Revenge of the Sith.
You know, you see a lot
of 3.
Yeah, I agree. And you see a lot of the work coming out now, or what they did with the Clone Wars, what they did with Rebels, what they're doing with Obi-Wan. And I like to see, I mean, the stuff that they're doing now is kind of, it helps the mess. Does that make sense?
No, I agree.
It kind of gives a little more continuity, gives a little more depth.
I have a little more appreciation for some of the stuff in the prequels now.
Yes.
Except for Jar Jar.
Yeah, well, especially all like the stuff with Anakin and Obi-Wan in the Obi-Wan series. You know, having that backstory from 1, 2, and 3 really helps the Obi-Wan series a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, especially I love that scene in Obi-Wan. I think it was episode 3 when he sees Darth Vader for the first time, and he didn't know Anakin was still alive, and he's like, "What happened to you?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "You
You
made
are
me
what
like
you
this.
made me."
Yeah, I am what you made me." Yeah, I'm like, "That was such an awesome scene."
And then him dragging him into the fire.
Oh man, it was such a good show.
Yeah.
I saw something about the little girl playing Leia.
Mhm.
She's great. She's awesome.
Oh, she's awesome.
And I really wish Carrie Fisher was alive to see this little girl perform, because I think Carrie Fisher would get a kick out of it.
I do too.
But they showed a thing on I think it was on Facebook. There's a picture of her as a kid and the girl playing her now, and
With
they
the
look
bird,
they look really really similar to each other.
Oh, wow.
And the little robot she carries, Lola,
Mhm.
is named after a parakeet that Carrie Fisher had as a kid that was named Lola.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
How
and
about
they have her in the picture. It's really cool. I love that they pay tribute to her so much.
That was their tribute to her. Yeah.
Even the outfit she wears. Like if you look, the outfit she wears in each episode look very similar to things that Leia wears in the trilogy. So, and then I have my underrated trilogy pick. It's
Gentlemen,
yes.
should we pause to get beers? And
Do you need another beer, sir?
I need another beer, and I need to take a leak.
Yeah, let's pause because I finished all three of mine, so I have to figure out where I'm going now.
Well, I want to finish two, but I only brought two up.
All right. We are back, everybody. We took a quick little break so we can drain the snakes and get more beer. So Mike is drinking a Devil's Backbone
Juicy Magic Juicy IPA.
Juicy IPA. I'm not fond of anything with juicy in the title.
And it is definitely an IPA.
Well, I told Kev while you were gone that like I'm cleaning out the fridge right now because I'm running out of stuff in there. So I'm drinking a Cold Snap from Sam Adams that I found like hiding in the back of the fridge. And Kev, you're still.
I've moved on to my Belgium triple cherry from Spellbound, and I have had it before. I just noticed on Untapped that I've had it before, but I think it's not as good as it was the last time I rated it. So I took it down a couple notches. It's just not as strong. It's a little weaker. I don't know. From going from a 10% to a 8.5%, just tastes watered down.
Yeah.
Happens.
So getting back to the list here, we were talking about trilogies, and I have down here
Adrian.
My
underrated.
Consider my underrated trilogy, which is the Cornetto trilogy, which stars Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, that is Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. Those are I love Shaun of the Dead. I just watched Hot Fuzz again the other day because it was on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know. I just love those British comedies, and they are, even though they're not a trilogy in a continuity sense, they consider them part of like this overarching trilogy because one's about zombies, one's about cults, and the other one's about aliens. So, and then Mike has the Jersey trilogy from Kevin Smith: Clerks, Mallrats, and Chasing Amy.
Yep.
I would agree that those are three very good movies.
They
go downhill after that. Yeah. Well, actually, no.
Well,
I'm sorry. Dogma was kind of a good one.
I like Dogma. I like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
But Dogma was not in Jersey, so that's not part of the trilogy.
Yeah. So these are like
point.
These are all take place in the same town, and a lot of characters like reappear and stuff from the three different films. But then you also got Clerks 2. And he just finished filming Clerks 3, so now Clerks is going to be its own trilogy.
Can I ask a question that may sound ignorant, but I'm unsure because I can only attest to having watched one of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
The Once Upon a Time movies, are they a trilogy, or are they just standalone movies?
You're talking
I'm
about
talking about Once Upon a Time in Mexico, Once Upon a Time in. Right, one. Wait, in Mexico is the. Hold on.
It's El Mariachi is the first one. Desperado is the second one, and Once Upon a Time in Mexico is the third one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, that is a trilogy.
That is a trilogy. Yeah.
All right, but the Once Upon a Time in California, Once Upon a Time in America, and Once Upon a Time in Mexico are not. Okay.
Once Upon a Time in America is a gangster film. It's like a Godfather-esque type gangster film. Once Upon a Time in, you think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? That's the Quentin Tarantino movie that just came out a few years ago.
Right.
And Once Upon a Time in Mexico is part of the El Mariachi trilogy, which is El Mariachi, Desperado, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. The last two star Antonio Banderas as the mariachi. The mariachi is played by a different actor in the original film.
Okay.
The original film was kind of like a low budget, like independent indie film, and the second two films had like a larger budget. So, but yeah, they're definitely a trilogy. I didn't put them on the list because
Didn't think about
great.
it.
El Mariachi's a pretty good film. Desperado's okay. I honestly haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Mexico, but I heard it's actually pretty fun. Like Johnny Depp played the against type in that film.
It's more of an underrated trilogy.
Yeah, it's an underrated trilogy, like the Machete trilogy.
So that's my underrated trilogy, the El Mariachi.
Okay. Trilogies that killed the franchise. Blade.
You can't have Triple H in a movie.
Yeah. Well, I like the first Blade. I actually think the second Blade is a better film. The second one was directed by Guillermo del Toro, so it's got a little bit more panache to it. But the third film is a hot mess. I mean, the best thing to come out of that film is Ryan Reynolds.
I thought you were going to say Jessica Biel.
Well, Jessica Biel is pretty good in it, but I mean, it's the film that made Ryan Reynolds the Ryan Reynolds we know and love today, which is Ryan Reynolds playing Ryan Reynolds in every film. So it's like early Deadpool in Blade 3. One of my favorite things about the third Blade Trinity, it was called, is if you listen to Patton Oswalt, the stand-up comedian, he had a very small role in the film. He was like the guy that invents all the weapons that they use and shit. And he was on a talk show one time talking about Wesley Snipes' behavior on the film. And he said Wesley Snipes, all he ever wanted to do was sit in his trailer and smoke pot all day. He didn't get along with the director. He used to give the director Post-it notes in order to communicate with him. He made everybody on the set refer to him as Blade. And in a lot of the scenes, it's not him, it's his stand-in, because he didn't want to go and film those days.
Wow.
So like that movie was a disaster.
Yes, but there's gonna be a new one coming out, and it's
with Mahershala Ali. Two-time Oscar winner Mahershala Ali will be playing Blade this time.
Yes, he will.
Yeah. Well, they gave him a little voiceover intro at the end of the Eternals.
Yes.
Because that was him speaking to Jon Snow at the end. Bill and Ted. Now, Bill and Ted was not supposed to be a trilogy, but then
the first two were fine.
They decided to come out with Bill and Ted Face the Music, which I watched recently. And it's the first time I've watched a movie with Keanu Reeves in it where I've said to myself, wow, Keanu looks old.
You're probably the only one that watched the third one.
I watched the third one. Well, I'm a completist. I have to see the trilogy. I have to finish it.
I think it's available on HBO Max. I may be watching that over my summer break.
I think when I watched it, it was on like Hulu or something like that. But it was, I had some entertaining moments. The two girls, the young actresses that they get to play their daughters in the film are really good. Because they do a really cool, like, sort of impression of what Bill and Ted's daughters would be, you know? But other than that, like, I mean, it was really an unnecessary sequel. The Matrix. Now, I would call this a franchise that got killed with the second film before you even got to the third one.
Yeah, I think the third one just cleaned it up and ended it. Then they brought a fourth one out.
And then they brought a fourth one, which is a lot. That's why it's one. It's why it's one
made the fourth one made the second and third one look like Oscar-winning movies.
Yeah, like this is like when I said to you guys in the pre-show, my idea for a future episode is bad movies with one really good scene, and I think of The Matrix Reloaded, which is overall a pretty bad movie, but that highway chase scene. Yeah. With Trinity on the motorcycle and the agents driving the big rig trucks and Morpheus on top of it. Like, that's an awesome scene in what is otherwise a pretty bad movie. Star Wars 7, 8, and 9. I don't know what to say that we haven't really said already about these.
Again, I believe when they got the different director on 8, they fucked it all up.
I think if you had given him a chance with 9, maybe he could have done something that would have justified the things that he did in 8. But the studio like immediately panicked and brought J.J. Abrams back to like retcon everything.
But if they
I
had
just
JJ
think
if they had JJ do all 3,
Yeah,
I think it would have been fine.
if they had a story for 3 movies before they decide to make 3 more movies, then that would have been best.
they did. They had the Thrawn
Thrawn
trilogy by Timothy Zahn.
Which I'm on like chapter 11 of the first book.
Yeah.
So
Right. Why didn't they go with that direction?
Instead of making those the legacy novels and taking them out of the canon, you had
Mhm.
plenty of material there, not just for the sequel trilogies, but for movies afterward.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot of good books in those 45 that I read that don't mean anything anymore. That I'm not still bitter about.
not at all.
Not at all. The Hangover, another movie that killed itself with the second film. You didn't even need a third one.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Like the first movie was great, was hysterical, was funny, had to watch it again because I missed so many jokes the first time around. The second one,
Money grab.
I don't know what they were trying to do with that second. Aside from the
Is
money
that the
grab,
one where they go from
they're in Bangkok?
Bangkok? Right?
Yeah, and I'm like, it was dark. It was like it actually wasn't like. It was like I don't know what they were trying to do with that. And then the third one was a mess. I saw the third one. Unfortunately, I saw it one time, and I haven't even considered watching it again after that.
Well, you are a glutton for punishment, so
I'm a glutton for punishment, but like I also said, I'm a completist. Like if there's a third film, I gotta say it. Austin Powers. First one's great.
like
Love the
there's-
original. I actually like the second one, The Spy Who Shagged Me. I did not like the third one.
Second one was
Second one was
Heather Graham.
Heather Graham.
Yeah, I hated that one.
Third one was Beyonce. You're not a big Heather Graham fan, are you?
I'm not. She can't act. She can't act. So
Well, you didn't like her as Roller Girl in Boogie Nights?
I think that's the way she got most of her jobs.
I don't know. I'm not as harsh on Heather Graham as you are, but I actually like the second film a little bit. I would like the third one.
I would go to a movie theater to see a Heather Graham and Nicolas Cage movie.
I would too. I'm all, where do I sign up for that? I'd give my left arm for the Robert De Niro Willy Wonka. I'd give a kidney for, what was the movie I said I'd give a kidney for? I don't remember now. I'm not going to give up too much for the Nicolas Cage Heather Graham one. I might let them pull a tooth. Taken. The first Taken was like a hit that was like a surprise hit. Like I think wasn't expected to do as well in the box office as it did. It launched 1,000 memes with that whole,
I will find you.
I will find you. I will kill you. Yeah, no, that's right. You're right. I will find you. I will kill you. Yeah, like that whole thing. I got a particular set of skills. Yeah. I mean that launched 1,000 memes, but the second one was totally unnecessary. And then making a third one for the sake of having a trilogy is just totally uncalled for. I mean, it didn't even do that well enough in the box office to be a money grab. So we already talked about The Godfather. Here's another one that I wasn't sure what to do with, the Mad Max trilogy. Because
so I've seen Mad Max 1.
You've seen
I've seen Mad Max Fury Road.
Okay.
I have not seen Mad Max Thunderdome.
So the first one is Mad Max.
Mad Max.
And then it's the Road Warrior is the second one.
And then Beyond the Thunderdome.
Then Beyond Thunderdome, and then Fury Road. Now the first one is like a cop thriller. It's kind of weird because it's sort of like a cop thriller. And then you watch the second one, and the second one's where it goes off the rails. It's like this post-apocalyptic wasteland film. It's really fun. The second one's actually a really fun movie. The third one, not so much.
Didn't like Tina Turner?
Yeah, Tina Turner's got 3 acting credits to her name. And one of them is Beyond Thunderdome. And it was a little bit of a mess. So I had trouble like whether or not I should put this on a trilogy list because that third one kind of killed it. Fury Road kind of brought it back, but at the same time, it's a different kind of movie because it's Tom Hardy. It's not Mel Gibson.
Not Mel Gibson.
And the focus of it a lot more is on Charlize Theron's character.
Right, I would call that a totally different.
Especially,
I call that more of a reboot.
Yeah, especially because they're trying to do a sequel to it now that's going to focus mainly on Charlize Theron's character and not Mad Max. So, Terminator. I don't know what to say about this one because it's the third one. The third one killed it, and then they tried to keep bringing it back and just kept killing it even worse. It was like T2. T1 is a classic. T2 is a summer blockbuster that kind of rewrote what the summer blockbuster was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a good film.
It was a good film, but it was a lot different from the first film, but it was still a good film. And then T3 was like...
Which one was T3?
T3 was the
T3 was Terminator. Rise of the Terminator.
No. It was Terminator 3.
Rise of the Machine?
Rise of the Machine.
Which was the female Terminator.
The chick, yeah.
And then they kind of showed you like how the AI took over Cyberdyne and all that stuff. And then they had the series for a little while, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, which was a really good show. Mm-hmm. And then the next movie that came out kind of rewrote the story in a way that the show
Terminator Salvation.
Yeah. And then they did Genesis, and then it became a mess after a while. Like honestly, like it could have stopped at T2.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like it's another one of those, well, we did a second one, we need to do a third one. So it's like a trilogy for trilogy's sake, and they didn't need it. Bryan Singer's X-Men. So that would be X-Men, X2,
X-Men, X2, and then
Last Stand.
Yeah. X2, the first X-Men was a great movie. I mean, I think that kind of like relaunched. That came out before Spider-Man, right? The original X-Men. It was 2000.
I think it was. They were very close together.
Yeah,
it wasn't. So they weren't too far apart. So.
No, but I think that came out first, and I think that kind of launched the kind of like the comic book franchise again. Even though Batman had tried it fizzled out after Schumacher fucked it up.
Yeah, so I think it's like the film that kind of like gave a rebirth to the superhero franchise.
Right. So the first one I loved. You know, the second one was even better. I thought X2 was great.
I thought X2 was the better of the two.
X2 was the better of the two. And then the third one was just a mess.
No, I remember the first time I saw the third one, I actually I kind of liked it the first time I saw it. Mm-hmm. And then when I watched it a second time, I saw more of the flaws in it. Okay. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I only have one thing to say. Fraser Crane is the beast. and it really kind of killed it for me.
You know, when I was reading your list, Lee, and I'm looking at the Bryan Singer X-Men, and I naturally went to the more recent, and I know he didn't do First Class, but he did do Days of Futures Past. And I thought First Class was okay. First Class was okay. Days of Futures Past was okay, but it was the Apocalypse one which sunk it for me.
And then you and I went and saw Dark Phoenix anyway.
Right. Then we went to see Dark Phoenix. And I can just see Mike's head fuming right now.
So Mike loves the X-Men, and he's an X-Men purist, and Days of Future Past was too different from the comic series for him.
Okay, let me go back to let's go to what we're talking about. X-Men.
2000.
Yeah, the first one. I thought it was a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think what helped it was the actors they got to play the roles.
Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart,
Ian
McKellen, Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, I think they're the ones that really sold it.
And I liked the
even though it was
as Gray.
Mm-hmm. I liked Rogue. Who was Rogue?
That was Anna Paquin.
Anna Paquin.
Yeah, it was a good cast.
I mean, even though it does not keep true with the comic books, I can live with it because Bobby's an original, Iceman's an original X-Men.
Mhm.
He's a student in this one, in that one. Okay, I'll deal. X2, it was probably better. X3 fucked everything up.
Yeah, actually was bad. Actually was bad. We can all agree on that one.
And then,
Yeah.
if you want to go with the other ones, you know what I've said about those ones. There's a
Yeah.
whole rant earlier. If you want to hear my rant, go back
I
to superheroes.
I heard your rant already because I re-listened to that episode a while back.
Mike, would you do me a favor sometime? Do a mini podcast of what really grinds my gears in the X-Men franchise.
That'd be great. We could put it behind a paywall on Patreon.
So I'm talking to the listeners. If you haven't heard my rant, go back to our first superheroes.
So, talking about superhero films, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire.
Yeah,
Spider-Man
another
3,
one where the first one was really good. Second one I think was a little bit better.
I think the second one is one of the best superhero films ever made.
And it kills me to say, because though I do like Doc Ock, and I like who played Doc Ock, Alfred Molina. I loved the Green Goblin, and I loved Willem Dafoe as a Green Goblin. But I think the second one was better done, and then the third one fucked it up.
They don't. Yeah, they want to put them all in at once.
I don't blame it on Tobey Maguire. I thought he was great because he's Spider-Man. I don't blame it on Kirsten Dunst. She's great as Mary Jane. I don't blame it on Sam Raimi as a director because I think he's a good director. I blame it on the studio interference.
Yeah.
Sam
Raimi
Raimi
had everything lined up for the Lizard. He had everything lined up for the Vulture.
He wanted to stick to the classic 1960s Spider-Man villains. That would be Green Goblin. That'd be Doc Ock, the Vulture, Electro, the Lizard, all those characters. The studio was like, we need something newer because we need to keep, the young audience involved.
Venom. We need Venom. Yeah, just throw Venom in there.
We need Venom. And then he's ballsy enough, though, Sam Raimi, that he kills Venom at the end of the film. And the studio was not too happy about it, but he's like, hey, you want Venom in the film? This is what's happening.
Yeah.
And they were actually supposed to do a fourth one, but he and Tobey Maguire said, fuck you. We're not dealing with the studio involvement anymore, and that's when they decided to go with the Andrew Garfield one.
They rebooted it.
And they rebooted it, and they did the Lizard, and they did Electro,
which he had spent which he spent 3 movies building up with Professor Connor.
And then who's the villain in the first Tom Holland one? The Vulture. Then I have the Alien franchise, which Alien 1, the original Alien, fucking masterpiece.
Good. Great movie.
Alien 2, one of the best sequels ever made because it's such a totally different film.
It's such candy.
It's candy. It's a totally different film from the first Alien film, but not so different that it kills it. It actually is better.
Game over, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Plus, you have Bill Paxton, so
yeah.
But then you get the Alien 3, man, and that was David Fincher.
And I like him as a director.
And I love David Fincher, but his thing was it was so much studio involvement.
Yeah, and I remember reading that.
He was upset because he didn't feel like he made the film he could make. Oh, and speaking of David Fincher, he is the producer and director of the Mindhunter series that I was talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So
I'm definitely going to catch that.
He's definitely behind it. Yeah, it's really good. I'm not even going to get into the rest of the Alien films that came after that. And then he got Jurassic Park and Jurassic World.
So Jurassic Park.
So Jurassic Park, of course, classic.
Yep.
Jurassic Park 2, not so much. Jurassic Park 3.
I like better than 2.
I liked it better too, but all I can really remember from it is the nightmare that Alan Grant has on the plane where the raptor starts talking to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it focuses too much on that the super dinosaur, the Spinosaurus or whatever the hell it is. And a family being on the island with them.
Yeah, well, they're looking. They're looking for their kid. Yeah. Now, Jurassic World, it remains to be seen. I like the first Jurassic World.
I did.
It did do the whole thing that Force Awakens did with New Hope, where it kind of copied and pasted a little bit from Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I thought it was a good film. The second film, not so much, because it went from being a movie about dinosaurs to being a movie about cloned children.
Yes.
And I don't know where the hell that came from. And then they're getting a little too carried away with like the biologically created dinosaurs as well.
Mm-hmm.
The lab created dinosaurs like the Indominus Rex and all that. So I will definitely see the third one regardless, just because there's nostalgia value in it, in the fact that they brought Goldblum, Neil, and Dern back.
Yeah.
They looked at No Way Home and they said, "Yes, do it."
Do it. So what's going to happen is they're going to open up a portal, and Richard Attenborough is going to come back from the dead.
I spared no expense.
As Santa Claus.
They cloned him. It's going to be a young actor playing a very young Richard Attenborough.
It's going to be like Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One.
They're going to do a CGI Hammond. And then
got Christopher Pratt in it, so you can't be wrong.
Yeah.
So then the last one I threw on here, this one here from Mike, the Mummy trilogy, and I'm talking about the Brendan Fraser one.
Yes, I love the Mummy. I love the first two. First two are great.
You know, I like the first two as well. It's that third one.
Mm-hmm.
First off, you got Rachel Weisz not wanting to do it, and so they replaced her with Maria Bello, who I like, but
I like her, but she's not
Rachel Weisz.
No.
And and then they took it out of Egypt, put it in China, and makes it kind of weird, and it's And then Tom Cruise came along and did his thing with it, and was so bad that they ruined a universe before the universe even started.
You are going to fight against my tapioca soldiers. Wait, not tapioca.
Tapioca.
Terracotta.
That's the
I told you the opening clip song that I'm going to make for the show is going to be all Kevin. Were you kidding around with that just now? Or did you seriously think they were called tapioca songs?
It was something. I was like, is it ricotta?
Begins with a Z. That's even better.
My ricotta soldiers.
Led by the
what
ravioli
was his name?
Look at my ricotta soldiers. They're soft. They're made of white cheese. Oh my God, it's getting late. Mike, you have any beer wisdom for us?
I do have some beer wisdom for us. 8 glasses of water a day seems impossible, but 8 glasses of beer is easy.
It is. Mm-hmm. I told you, I already had my serving of vegetables tonight with that one beer that I had. Anybody have any final thoughts on their drinks for this evening?
Well, as much as I had an IPA, I've almost finished this one off.
So this was delicious. I would get this again. New Belgium's honey orange triple. My first time, but it had a lot of flavor, and it's nice. It's late. This went down. This was my 4th time having this apparently, and it went from a 3.5. I took it down only to a 3. Oh.
Kevin, where'd you go?
Yeah, my battery's at 10%, so it's kind of good that the show's ending. But you know, I mean, Spellbound's good. It's a solid brewery. I've been there many a time. I don't know. Maybe this was not doing it for me today. Maybe I shouldn't have started with the 10% and going down to an 8.5.
You gotta go down and go.
You got to work up.
Work up.
My emergency beer, my Sam Adams Cold Snap, is on like the edge of being skunked, but I'm almost finished it anyway. But as for my beer trilogy this evening, I took the same road that Mike did. I had the pear lager, which I really liked. I had the ale second, which was okay, but I really, really enjoyed that sour one. That sour one was very, very tasty.
So yeah,
I definitely like to get that one again.
The pear lager was good. The tropical latitude, the sour fruit ale is good, and it's an IPA.
Mm-hmm.
The Juicy IPA. But again, I've almost finished it, so I can't say I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't buy this one again. The other ones I would. So I still haven't had a beer I hated from Devil's Backbone.
Devil's Backbone.
Yep.
So thank you for joining us, everybody, this evening for episode 63. Three's a crowd, ... sometimes, where we talked about the best and possibly worst trilogies in film history. Join us next week for episode 64. We're doing a special episode next week. Mike talked about earlier in the show, This Day in Film History, some of the great movies that came out in the year 1984. So we're going to be doing the first in what we hope to be a continuing series of episodes in which we pick out one particular year in cinema and talk about why that year was such a great year for movies. And so next week, we'll be starting this series of episodes by talking about films released in the year 1984, which, as we said earlier, includes things like Gremlins and Ghostbusters. So it was, as Frank Sinatra said, a very good year. All right. So thank you for joining us this evening on Films and Fermentation. We hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed recording it for you. Thanks you, as always, for making that trip down to the crossroads between pickled and fermented. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
Don't forget to drop us a line at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com. Visit all of our social media sites or find us on your favorite podcast platform by going to linktree.com/filmsandfermentation. Thanks again for joining us, everybody. Make sure you tune in next week for episode 64. I haven't got a title for it yet, but it's definitely going to be about movies from the year 1984. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
All right.